You must know the rumors about aliens building the pyramids. We have all heard about it, and it makes sense. How could men back then actually have done this, without having any of the equipment we currently have? But the question really is, did aliens really live with us back in the day? Do they now? Do they exist? Let's break this down. Hey guys, tonight as you settle in and let your thoughts soften, you're invited to drift far away, not into the far reaches of the galaxy, but backward through the quiet corridors of time. So you're lying there now, drifting between the ancient sands and the quiet corners of your room, and maybe a thought flickers across your mind, like a whisper of wind across stone. If we know so much about how the pyramids were built, the quarries, the ramps, the gangs of men hauling stone under a burning sun, why does the idea of aliens building them still cling so stubbornly to us? Why, after all these years, does the myth glow brighter in the shadows than the truth, polished and clear in the sun? Close your eyes and let's wander back, not 5,000 years this time, but just a few decades ago, to the living rooms and library basements of the 20th century. The first seeds of the ancient aliens myths sprouted when the world felt smaller but also more mysterious. People flipped through dusty National Geographic magazines or squinted at grainy black and white photos of the Great Pyramid and saw something that seemed so big, so perfectly ordered, so impossibly old that surely humans alone couldn't have done it. It didn't help that the modern world often underestimated ancient people. Western explorers stood at the base of the pyramids, peering up through the desert heat waves, and found it easier to believe in little green men than in generations of clever, coordinated human labor. How could farmers with copper chisels and ropes pull off such a feat? Weren't they primitive? The myth took root in the cracks left by a lack of respect, a disbelief in what human hands, backs, and minds can do when given enough time and a dream bigger than life. And so came the books, dusty paperbacks with lurid covers. Chariots of the Gods by Eric Vaughan. Denikin became a runaway bestseller in the late 1960s. Its pages dripped with speculation. Were the pyramids landing pads for alien ships? Were pharaohs descended from star gods? Were all the colossal wonders of the ancient world secret messages from visitors beyond the stars? The questions were posed breathlessly, with just enough facts sprinkled among wild leaps to make it feel like revelation rather than invention. The answers, conveniently, were left to your imagination, because the questions themselves were so deliciously impossible to prove or disprove. Television got in on it too. By the time the 1970s rolled around, documentaries and late-night talk shows made ancient astronauts a household phrase. Grainy footage of stone carvings was paired with ominous music, and smooth-voiced narrators asked, could it be? The seeds sprouted vines, and they spread through pop culture. Pyramids and UFOs became tangled together in posters on college dorm walls, in paperbacks passed hand to hand like secret knowledge. And beneath it all was a comforting thrill. Because to believe that aliens built the pyramids is, in a way, to make the world bigger and stranger than it seems. If a race of beings once crossed the black oceans of space to help us stack stone on stone, then maybe they're still out there, watching, ready to come back. Maybe we're not alone. Maybe the universe brims with secrets we haven't found yet. The stones become more than stones. They become a message that we are part of something vast and cosmic, something that lifts us out of the ordinary grind of soil and sweat and sunburned laborers dragging sledges uphill. But belief is a double-edged thing. There's wonder in the myth, but there's something sad underneath it too. To cling to the story that aliens did it is in a quiet way. To rob ourselves of the real magic, the breathtaking truth that ordinary people with ordinary tools did something that still leaves us speechless 5 millennia later. They needed no ships from Sirius, no anti-gravity beams, no galactic blueprints etched on the walls of secret tombs. They needed only rope, stone, and the unshakable will to carve eternity from the desert's edge. When archaeologists dig deeper into this myth, they often find more than just questions about technology. They find echoes of something darker, a trace of prejudice that lingers like dust. Too often, the ancient alien theories pop up when the builders were not European. The pyramids of Egypt, the giant stone heads of Easter Island, the intricate lines of Nazca etched into the desert of Peru. Again and again, the same quiet insult. They couldn't have done this on their own. The myth can become a way to deny the genius and grit of people whose stories were never written by the victors. Yet even when the evidence piles high, the tools, the workers' graffiti, the unfinished quarries where half-carved stones still lie like frozen echoes of a forgotten shift, the myth endures. Maybe because humans love a good mystery more than we love the slow, dry truth. The truth demands patience and respect. It demands we crawl through rubble, translate fragile scrolls, piece together broken pottery shards. The myth just needs a single question, softly whispered into the dark. What if? It has one thing to stand beneath the glaring sun and look up at the Great Pyramid as ancient, jagged silhouette, but it's another entirely to imagine what's hidden deep within, where the light has never touched. If the stones themselves give birth to the alien myths, the hidden rooms inside breathe life into them every time another dark corridor is found. And tonight, as you settle deeper under your blanket, we slip into those narrow shafts and lost chambers, the ones that conspiracy storytellers say hold the final proof that the builders of the pyramids were not from this earth. Since the earliest days, rumors of secret chambers have wrapped themselves around the Great Pyramid like desert sand caught in its corners. Even the ancient Greeks, who visited 2,000 years after Khufu's reign, whispered about passages leading down into the underworld or up into the sky. They marveled that a king's tomb could be buried so deep inside so much stone, guarded by passageways that twist like riddles. But they also wondered, why so many shafts? So many false doors? So many rooms that seemed to go nowhere? These strange architectural dead ends are the fertile soil where alien conspiracies grow. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, European explorers crawled through the pyramid's cramped tunnels with flickering lamps. They scratched notes on paper by candlelight, tracing narrow shafts that climbed at awkward angles from the king's chamber and the so-called queen's chamber. Shafts too small for a person to crawl through, but too carefully constructed to be accidental. To the ordinary archaeologist, these shafts were practical, maybe air vents or symbolic passages for the pharaoh Isol to fly to the stars, specifically to Orion, spelt which the ancient Egyptians linked to Osiris, the god of the afterlife. But for those who yearned for a wilder truth, these shafts were more than air holes. They were the keys to a cosmic lock. Some believe these tiny passageways were meant for something more, channels for communication with beings beyond the stars. In the soft hush of a late-night documentary or the pages of an old fringe science book, you'll hear it whispered. What if these were energy conduits? What if the pyramid itself was a giant machine, humming with frequencies we've long forgotten? A beacon or perhaps a receiver, drawing signals down from a mothership orbiting Earth millennia ago. It sounds fantastical, but that's the lure. These empty tunnels that modern robots still crawl through with blinking cameras, hoping for the next secret door. In the early 2000s, a tiny robotic rover was sent to explore a shaft in the Queen's chamber, too narrow for any human to squeeze through. The rover bumped along for dozens of meters until it found something incredible. A tiny limestone door set with copper handles. A door inside a shaft inside a pyramid. A door that nobody expected. A door that shouldn't even exist. When news of this so-called Gantenbrink's door broke, the alien theorists pounced. To them, it was proof. The pyramid held more than dusty stone. Maybe behind that slab lay the final secret, a hidden room lined with ancient technology, or blueprints etched into walls by beings who crossed the stars. Maybe it was a chamber storing power sources we can't yet understand. If the Great Pyramid was more than a tomb, if it was a machine, then this door was the keyhole. When engineers finally drilled a tiny hole through that limestone slab, they pushed a camera through the gap like a curious insect. And on the other side, another small chamber ending in another stone block. No golden treasures, no shimmering alien relics. Just more stone, more mystery. Enough mystery to keep the myth alive for decades more. Why do these chambers tug at our imagination so powerfully? Perhaps because a locked door is an invitation. The human mind hates not knowing, and a sealed space deep in the world's most iconic monument is like an itch we can't scratch. For alien believers, each sealed chamber is one more chance that the truth is still waiting, just out of reach. In 2017, the excitement flared again when scientists using cosmic ray scans, a technique called muography, detected what they called a void above the grand gallery of the Great Pyramid. It has an empty space about 30 meters long, big enough to be called a hidden chamber. What lies inside? Stones, air, or something that rewrites history? Mainstream archaeologists shrug and say it's likely just a structural gap, a byproduct of how the pyramid was built to shift weight away from passageways below. But to the ancient alien theorists, it's more than an empty pocket. It's a hidden vault, maybe the final piece that ties Earth's greatest stone puzzle to the stars above. Over the years, some have spun even grander ideas. Maybe these chambers hold the Hall of Records, a mythical archive said to contain secrets of humanity's true origins, left behind by an advanced race that uplifted primitive humans thousands of years ago. The idea echoes through New Age books and late-night radio shows that under the Sphinx or deep inside the pyramid lies a stone library, guarded for millennia, waiting to be opened when humanity is ready. The truth is probably simpler, yet no less wondrous. These hidden chambers, these unfinished passageways, these strange shafts that lead to nowhere, all reveal the messy, human side of a grand vision. They hint at redesigns mid-project, at builders experimenting with ways to shift weight, at pharaohs changing their minds, at mistakes and solutions carved in limestone. They show us ancient Egypt as a place alive, with real people who made choices, who tested ideas, who learned as they built toward the sky. But conspiracy loves an empty space. The less we know for certain, the more room there is for stories to creep in and take root in the dark. You have come this far into the drifting corridors of ancient rumor and cold stone. You have stood among the pyramids under a sky that never changes, yet always watches. Now, let your mind wander deeper, past the sand-scraped stones, past the hidden tombs and secret shafts, into the strange world of objects that should not exist, at least not in the accepted story of human history. Some call them anomalies. Others say they are outright fakes, but for those who wish to believe these relics and carvings are whispers of a time when humans knew more than they should, or when they were helped by something not entirely human at all. Close your eyes and imagine an ancient Egyptian temple, half lost to time and heat. You drift through its shadowed halls, fingers brushing hieroglyphs that crackle under centuries of dust. Your lantern light flickers on walls, carved with everyday scenes, farmers harvesting grain, nobles hunting wild birds along the Nile, until suddenly the images twist into something unsettling. Shapes that look like strange bulbs glowing with serpentine filaments, coils of wire snaking around hands held in reverence. Or there, what seems almost absurd, a shape that resembles a helicopter, its rotors frozen in stone. You have found yourself in the Temple of Hathor at Dendra. This place is the beating heart of a quiet but persistent puzzle. Etched into its walls are what many believe to be the Dendra light, an image that looks uncannily like a modern electric bulb. Mainstream archaeologists say it is nothing more than a lotus flower with a snake, a harmless symbol of creation and rebirth. But to those who believe in ancient lost technologies, it is proof. proof that the ancient Egyptians wielded an understanding of electricity far beyond what dusty textbooks dare to mention. But how could they? Where would the power come from? Your lantern flickers, throwing shadows into the next corridor of thought. The so-called Baghdad battery, found hundreds of miles away in the dry soil near Baghdad. A small clay jar, a copper cylinder nestled inside, an iron rod down the center. Fill it with an acidic liquid, some argue, and you have a simple galvanic cell, a primitive battery. Some dismiss it as a vessel for scrolls or sacred papyrus, but the possibility lingers. If people knew how to make a battery 2,000 years ago, what else did they know? These out-of-place artifacts are scattered like breadcrumbs across the ancient world. A spark plug in a rock, a mechanism from Greece that tracks the stars with gears more delicate than a clockmaker's dreams. The Antikythera mechanism, pulled from a shipwreck's cold embrace, turns in your mind now, its bronze gears frozen in time, suggesting that humans once had machines that mapped the heavens when much of the world still thought the earth was flat. Let your thoughts drift back to the pyramids, to those vast stone puzzles you have walked through all night. If such precision and alignment with stars was possible, if simple tools carved stones heavier than houses, could it be that the builders had access to some lost method? Some secret that never made it to papyrus or stone, or that was deliberately erased by sand and kings who rose to power by burying old truths. In the quiet of your imagination, you find yourself kneeling in a small chamber beneath the pyramid. Before you lies a simple box, perhaps a ceremonial chest, or perhaps a lost battery humming with potential in a time before our time. Beside it, an old carving shows a figure not quite human, too tall, head elongated, eyes too wide. You wonder if this is just another depiction of a god, an artistic flourish, or something else. A memory passed down through centuries, misunderstood by every generation that stumbled across it. Above ground, the wind sighs over the sand. Tourists come and go, snapping photos, arguing about theories. But here, alone in your dream, the pyramids seem to hum with an energy that no guidebook can quite explain. Maybe the pharaohs knew? Maybe the priests whispered it from father to son. A knowledge not to be carved in stone for fear it would bring ruin if the wrong hands found it. And so the out-of-place artifacts become a hidden language for those who want to listen. The Baghdad battery, the dendrolite, the gears of the Antikythera mechanism, strange metallic spheres found in ancient mines. Even the legends of Vimanas in India, flying machines described long before man ever lifted himself into the sky. Each piece alone is strange. Together, they become a foggy pattern that the curious can chase through sleepless nights. Is it proof? No. The skeptics remind you firmly, crossing their arms with polite smiles. Coincidence, misinterpretation, or outright hoax. But doubt can be as heavy as stone, and you find your mind wandering back to that hidden chamber beneath the pyramid. You hear whisper you cannot quite make out. A hum you feel more than hear. Perhaps these lost technologies are not lost at all, but waiting, buried beneath your feet, sealed behind walls you have not found yet, guarded by centuries of drifting sand and the slow, careful lies of time. Above you, the pyramids endure the ages, blind and watchful under the desert stars. Whatever secrets they hold, they do so in silence. They do not answer. They do not deny. They simply stand. And so you stand too, in the echo of these forbidden relics, eyes half closed as sleep pulls you closer. The lost technologies of ancient Egypt, the out-of-place artifacts, the forbidden knowledge. Maybe it is real, maybe it is not. But tonight, in this slow unraveling dream, you can believe, just for a little while longer. Drift on, through the soft hum of a battery that should not be, under the glow of a stone-carved light bulb that never flickered, and let the ancient world carry you deeper into a darkness where secrets are safe, if only because no one dares to look too closely anymore.